Greetings, everybody. In today's lesson, I'm going to show you another looping structure called a do-while loop. Now, you may be familiar with looping structures such as for next and while, so this is kind of a cousin of that. They're very closely related. Now, if you're familiar with a while loop executes a bunch of code for how many ever times you want it to. Now, remember, if you know the difference between a for next and a while, is you would use a for next loop if you know pretty much how many times you want that code to iterate. You know, from 1 to 12 times, or 1 to 60, or 1 to a million, or whatever. Now, a while loop works a little bit differently, where you might not know how many times you want that code to iterate. You just know that you want it to iterate while something is true. You know, while salary is less than a million, or while my credit card balance is less than 10,000. Now, do while, which I'm going to show you today, works like a while loop. However, it's got one thing that kind of sets it out. There's a couple more things as well, but pretty much think about it. A while loop can never run sometimes. Like, for example, if you have, while salary is less than $1 million. If the salary is greater than $1 million before that while loop is actually evaluated, that while loop would never run. Now, that may be what you want. It may not be what you want. You're the esteemed genius software developer that's writing the code, so you get to choose exactly how that works. If for some reason you wanted that while loop to execute at least once, maybe for some reason to initialize a variable or to test the equality of something, it's really up to you, what your reasons are for wanting to execute that code. But if you wanted that while loop to execute at least one time, what you would do is you would put in a do while loop. Now let me show you how that works. I'll kind of cut right to it. What you see here is the Epitomus Hello World program in Coding Ground. You should be used to Java by now, because we're going to do the do while in Java. So let me do the following. I'm just going to declare an integer. So we'll say int, and we'll do I. We'll set it equal to 0. And we'll do a quick do while. So we'll say do. And notice how Coding Ground very nicely gives us our do block. And then we're going to put in a while here. So we're not going to put any code yet in our do, but on line 10, we'll put in a while. And we'll put in while I is less than 5. And you should know by now that we could use other algebraic operators here. I'm just showing you the basic syntax so you can kind of take it from there. So we're just going to say, how about this? System.out.println. And we're going to print out I. Now let's take a look at this code here before we actually run it, because we're going really quickly through this. I'm almost done, actually. I'm not going to really show you much more than this. To learn more, Google's your friend. You can look up the differences between while loops and do loops. There's so much out there that you could just go from as far as examples go. Me doing anything really would be repeating it. So I'm just going to show you the syntax. But take a look at this. In this scenario, this do while loop is guaranteed to run at least one time. Now this is different than a while loop. I know you see a while there, but this is not a while loop. This is a do while loop. A do while loop is guaranteed to run once, where a while loop is not guaranteed to run at all. So what you have to do is you have to determine exactly which one you want to use. Oh, and just like a while loop, you have to do your incrementer too. You have to do like I plus plus. Now, again, otherwise you could get in a scenario where you can get into an indefinite loop, just like in a while, or even a for next, where you could just indefinitely just hose yourself and just be in that loop forever and ever and ever until your software runs out of stack space and your browser crashes and your PC crashes. crashes. Happens all the time, right? One thing I'm going to point out too while we're going through this is, what you do in your do while loop is really up to you. Right now, for the sake of argument, we're just using an incrementer I in here while I is less than 5. But you could do other things as well. You could aggregate a salary, like salary equals salary plus raise percentage, or credit card balance equals credit card balance times something. You could put in an algorithm or a formula, anything you want. But remember that you need to have some sort of incrementer in here. Right now, we're just incrementing on I. It's a very simple example. Your examples can be much more complex than this. But let's run this. So we're going to click execute without further ado. And we'll see hello world 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And just to make this fun, we'll say, how about this? While I is less than 5, right? How about this? We'll say I equals 6. All right, now let's take a pause and look at this carefully, right? Look at line 7 through 11. We're going to do while I is less than 5. But what is I equal to on line 6? Just a coincidence it's on line 6, right? I is equal to 6. I is not less than 5, right? So if this was a while loop instead of a do while loop, the while loop would not be executed at all. Now you might say, so what? I don't want the while loop to be executed. And what I'm saying is, as your coach, being a budding software developer, that's up to you. I mean, I'm not saying that this is better than a while or this improves on a while. It's just a different approach where in this case, with the do while, this block of code will be executed at least one time just to evaluate what I is equal to. And then inside the do while loop, Java and the calling program, if it's not Java, will determine exactly where this flow of control branches to. So anyway, do while and while, and as well as the cousins for next, and there's other looping structures, are very highly related and exist in almost every other language. That's why Java is a really good example language to learn the basics here, where you might look at this and say, well, why are we doing this in Java? Well, Java is a good language to learn this. It would be like if this was a introduction to poetry class or introduction to syntax or writing. We would have to pick a language to do so. This is a good one. Like if we were doing an introduction to math, we'd have to choose exactly what math do we use, what symbols do we use. It's the same thing here. Sometimes I get questions about why we're using Java, and we're not using Java just for Java's sake as much as it's a really good first language to learn, because a lot of the things that you learn in Java, you could move on to other languages, and do while works like that as well. So anyway, let me click on execute. And look at this. You got hello world, and you got 6. So this do while is executing at least once. So when line 8 gets executed, internally, without you knowing this, Java's looking at the value of I and saying it is not less than 5. So we're not going to do this a second time, and we're not going to continue with the while. Now again, this difference from just a while loop where it would never get executed at all. So that's all I got. Again, I'm trying to keep this bare bones and just getting you to get examples working. And by now you could put your thinking cap on about the usefulness of this or where you would use it. Now to sum this up, okay, we went over in this quick demonstration, we went over a do while loop. We talked about the differences between a do while loop and its closely related cousin or sibling, the while loop. We compared it to other looping constructs or looping codes such as a for next and talked about the differences between them. I also emphasized that there are other looping structures that are out there that you can research if you like. I also said that there's just a ton of documentation out there You're going to find your own sites that you like. Like I like WC3 Schools. That's always a good one. And you could get more examples from there rather than me just reading you a grocery list of all the different ways that you can do this. You have the resources to be self-sufficient and to look this stuff on your own. So thank you for sticking with me with this short video. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, and I bid you all a very well rest of the day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.